unlimited energy, wireless, and safe energy transmission, ensuring and improving our lives, our quality of life, and our health, the transmission of material and biological information. And the list could go on and on. These are things humanity has long desired. And this story, which I am going to tell you today, will be illustrated with concrete examples, with specific physical examples to show the story. I presented the basic effects and findings more than 2 months ago, and here's what happened next, in detail. First, I reached out to the University of Paich with this information, making sure to provide all the relevant details and context. I wanted to ensure that everything was clear and transparent from the very beginning, so there would be no misunderstandings or confusion later on. Let me tell you a little bit more about the topic. When I first brought this up, they told me, quite bluntly, to go to hell. Let me take a moment to show you, in detail, what the basic problem is, and also what the basic setup is with this new kind of energetics, which I have called time energy in this context, following the ideas of Kozyrev, Nikolai Kozyrev. To help you understand, let's start the story back in 1995, when Avermenko entered the scene. Kuman patented a brand new, innovative procedure in the city of Moscow, which suggested the existence of a new kind of energetics, as well as a completely new and different physics, biology, and chemistry behind the experiments and the evidence that was observed. It's actually a very simple and straightforward procedure. You just need to carefully solder two diodes together in the following specific way. This is what is known as the so-called Avermenko plug. Two signal diodes are used in this process. You can also use different types of diodes, depending on what you want to achieve with it. You have to solder them together so that you connect the anode to the cathode. Then the two outputs that remain free are soldered to a voltmeter or some other device, and the Avermenko plug is ready. The Avermenko plug itself is just two diodes. Now, I haven't invented anything new by itself, except for an amplification solution that can amplify the energy even more. Also, I found the correlations, and today we'll be talking about those correlations, and I'll show several experiments, as well as demonstrate and prove that our devices also operate with this kind of energy. And, dear researchers, it's going to be damn hard for you to weasel your way out of this story. I hate being a jerk, but I can be. And sometimes you have to be. For example, right now. It's necessary. It's necessary because otherwise, it really seems that the information simply doesn't get through to you with enough depth and seriousness. Even though I have a business here in Vienna that's been running successfully for 4 years, and we've achieved several million euros in turnover during these past 4 years, for some reason, you still don't seem to take this topic seriously enough. I'm the managing director, and I apologize that I'm not wearing a €1,000,000 suit. And I never will be. So, the basic experiment looks like this. Many of you have already talked here, for example, about single-wire power transmission. Let's take a look at what the basis of this is. How can we create this in the first place? Because single-wire power transmission itself is already the foundation for all the other effects. And I'm showing you this step by step today so that anyone can repeat it, because this is the essence of science and research. The fundamental task is not to hide things, not to blame others, but rather to make experiments repeatable, transparent, and clear for everyone involved. So, that's what I'm aiming for today, to be able to clearly show you this process. Today, we'll talk about single-wire power transmission, wireless power transmission, and many other interesting things. Our biological system also operates with this kind of subtle energy. Believe me, this is truly remarkable. Not just because I say so, but because there is evidence for this going back thousands of years. So, let's look at the first experiment. Otherwise, I could keep talking all day. Here, we see the next simple thing. This is a simple frequency generator. What you see here in the picture, for example this pile of junk, will be discussed. Today, each of these belongs to a different experiment. It'll be interesting, believe me. It's worth watching. With this video, humanity can learn. If they want to. If they don't want to, then they can just bury themselves. That's my opinion for today. I'm not being positive and I'm not being nice. I can be like this if I want to. Believe me, the last 2 months have shown me that not every member of humanity necessarily deserves any chance at all, because they don't do anything to put themselves in a better situation. To live better, to achieve more, they just whine and complain, and if there is any result, they cover it up or start lying about it all over the place. Frequency generator. I clipped a crocodile clip onto it. You see, It has two ends. One is negative, the other is positive. Red is positive, black is negative. It's very simple. You don't have to be an electrical engineer to see what this is. This is a frequency generator. All it does is generate waves. Square waves. Set the wave to this, so the wave pattern or the type of wave, set it to that, and let's give it, say, a 1 megahertz signal. That's all we had to do. There's nothing else to do at the moment. This thing is set to 5 volts. And if we check with the Avermenko plug how single-wire energy transmission works, here's the Avermenko plug in my hand, 2 to 5 diodes. I only connected and soldered the LED on so that it would act as a load. It's not mandatory to solder it on. And we're not talking about electrical energy. It's just more visually impressive this way, that the LED lights up. It's not electrical, not electrical, and not electrical energy. I've said it 3 times now, just so you understand. But what I'm about to show you will be surprising. You see, the LED is lit. Now, what you see, I hope it's clear on camera, the LED is lit. On a single wire, right? So it's hard to explain or read into this. That this would be more than 1 wire, right? This here is just 1 piece. You see that it's one wire. A lot of people tend to say, well, the device is probably grounded. Yes, that's true, but I'll show you that it works exactly the same way without grounding. Grounding isn't the point here. Roland, what are you showing me here? What's this of Raman coupling? What's this energy thing? What even is this? So that this can be better understood. I'm going to connect a little piece of aluminum foil for you here. To this crocodile clip. To the grill chip. I can't make a long video because the camera is about to die, and honestly, I don't feel like spending hours messing around with video editing, cutting, and all that today, because there's just no point. What I see is that neither YouTube nor any other digital platform really offers any real advantage, because from this, there's no income or anything like that. I don't get any benefit from it. Actually, it's more of a disadvantage, but I'll still show you, really just so that humanity can learn from it. So that's basically the goal. Not much more than that. The LED is great. It lights up on the aluminum foil. Pretty cool. But let's think about what's actually happening here. Energy comes through a wire. Make sure it doesn't touch anything. And on another wire, there's only one pole. I'll hold the other one. Okay, Roland, okay. You're holding it. That's great. You're probably grounding it. Come on, and other similar nonsense. Yeah, this is pure nonsense. Obviously, it's pretty bad for me to say things like this as a researcher. But forgive me, because the last 4 years have shown me that most of humanity really just knows how to whine, not much else. So now let's look at what's not a lie. I connected a wire like this to it. What kind of insulation does it have on the outside? We can see, it lights up like this too. I'm holding the plastic, it's not connected to anything. If I grab the end like this, it lights up even brighter. You can see it. Now, the funny thing is, it always only gives out 5 volts of voltage. Divided by 2, right, 1 pole, 2.5 volts. 1 wire. That's what the Avermenko plug does. So it's a different kind of energy. A completely different energy system. It's not static electricity. No, it can't do this. So let me show you something else that static electricity can't do. We're always talking about 5 volts, so I haven't done anything to the generator. Basically, you need to set it to a square wave so that harmonics are generated, and the system receives more so-called energy. There's very complex and complicated mathematics behind this, involving torsion fields. It's worth checking out documents on torsion. I uploaded a document about torsion to the Facebook group, and that's about a glass of water. Believe me, if I put distilled water in it, right now it's tap water, fresh tap water. If I put distilled water in it, it might work exactly the same way as what you're about to see. And the voltage is still only 5 volts. So it's not thousands of volts, it's not static electricity, and it's not ions, because it's a 5-volt voltage. I'm using a single wire, so the ions probably aren't going to start moving back and forth here. That's what I strongly suspect. As you can see, the LED is glowing weakly. So let's do something to make this little LED shine brighter. We can do 2 things, either change the frequency or the voltage. For now, I'll go with the simple ver. Let's bump up the voltage a bit, really crank it up as much as we can. As long as it can handle the 1 megahertz. Right now, it's showing a 24-volt voltage. Well, it should light up like a Christmas tree. And it does. But that's not all it can do. See? We can see it. I think we can see it. Here in the water, it's shining really nicely. I don't even have to hold it necessarily. So, if I solder a 1 centimeter wire onto this, say, right here, or if I put a little ball of aluminum foil on it, then what happens is the LED still lights up. Even if I hang it into the water on a piece of thread, it still works. Of course, it really shouldn't work like this, but that's why it's usable. Yeah, you can touch it, nothing happens, nothing like that. So, not even in the water. So now, the thing is, it really shouldn't work like this in use, because this is an insulating material. Glass is an insulating material. Through the wiring, through a base of aluminum foil, it's an insulator, and inside there's water, and water itself has a very peculiar behavior, right? Superconductivity occurs, or rather, apparent superconductivity, so there's no ohmic resistance. There are no Ohm's laws in this case, guys. 24 volts, that's not high voltage, so you can't explain it away with skin effect or similar nonsense. Sorry, but that's just how it works. Okay, but that's not all this thing can do. Now I'll show you another one, another possibility, another effect. I'll just place it next to it, you see. The glass is positioned right next to it, and importantly, the foil does not actually touch the glass at all. See? It's not extremely bright, but you can notice that the LED, which is placed in the water, is still lighting up. So, I would suggest giving it a little more time to see what happens. The energy that is powering the LED is coming from the wire. There is no direct electrical connection between the glass and the foil. Inside the glass, there is water, specifically H2O, or what we commonly call water. This setup is quite interesting, isn't it? This here lights up. I've already explained the reasons why and how many times, so I won't repeat that now. But let's look at some other experiments. The issue here is that you might say, okay, but this is grounded. But let's admit, this has absolutely nothing to do with grounding. So even if the energy in the glass of water is grounded, how could it possibly appear? There's a gap of about 1 centimeter, maybe 1.5, maybe even 2 centimeters. Let's see if it still does anything from that distance. The LED still lights up faintly, even like this. Obviously, it shouldn't be working like this. Why am I showing this? Because our devices use this same kind of energy. Guys, for 4 years now, our devices have been using this energy. You can buy them in our web shop. And everyone thinks we're crazy. This is Nikola Tesla's radiant energy, so for 4 years now, everyone thinks we're crazy. This energy is Nikola Tesla's radiant energy, or the Russians' torsion field, or the recently discovered cold electricity. It's all the same. The connections I've just explained to you, no one else has put together in their mind until now. For 4 years, I've been working on technologies and solutions related to Nikola Tesla's inventions. Also, I restored the old website, which used to be Pepe's site, so even the Egyptians. This was the kind of energy they used from the pyramids. Once again, these connections, other researchers don't have them. So, I asked the question, if I were to go to a live presentation, how much could I charge for a ticket? Now, what I see is that certain people who are basically talking about nothing, and talking about nothing badly and incorrectly, so the topic is very spiritual. They charge £40,000 for entry. So that's why I asked the question, how much am I worth? 15,000, 20,000, 40,000, 80,000, 150,000 per ticket. And then the answer came, you're overpriced. You're not worth that much. All right then, come on. This energy technology didn't start with the Avermenko plug, but it was the Russians who made it possible for this technology to reach everyone. And what follows is a year-long story. For a year, they were scratching their heads, running around trying to figure out how to set up research institutes, how this technology can be used. So, with simple electronics, because the more complex electronics are right here. And compared to this, when I talked about this about 2 months ago, there was zero reaction, and the whole thing was just completely ignored. So now I'll show you. Look, here's a test socket. You can buy this on Amazon, not from me, but on Amazon, this is a standard test socket. It's just a really bad design. It comes with these things called top load, these little pins. How can you extend this energy field? By connecting an aluminum foil ball to it. I chose an IKEA salad bowl for this purpose. Obviously, this should be sized precisely. This is an incorrect solution, but we'll see the basic effects. Let's turn it on. You can see that the neon tube lights up in my hand. Two neon tubes are lighting up in my hand. Really cool. A burnt out neon tube. It also lights up, so this is wireless energy transfer. Really cool. Here I have a 5 watt-hour LED ring in my hand. It lights up in the air like this. As you can see, not from a small distance, though. The power consumption itself does not actually increase just because of this particular action or event. Any metal disc, for example, if I simply touch it nearby, you can observe what happens. You can see, it lights up this much right here, and although it might be subtle, it's still visible on the camera. Look! Plate water. You see? The energy, or the power, is not coming from the device itself here, but rather from this area, wirelessly, through the air. This demonstrates how the transfer works without direct contact, which is quite interesting. Do we get the point? Do we understand why this is different from other energy systems? Is it starting to make sense, more or less? Maybe. Can we see it? You can feel it. On the stand, on the piece of aluminum foil, on my keyboard, just a little bit. On the outer casing of the stable power supply, on another piece of aluminum foil. Whenever I touch any metallic object, the LED lights up. But this can even happen in water. Let's check it out. Grab a glass of water. This is the water from a previous demonstration, right? The LED lights up beautifully in it. About 2 meters away from the Tesla test. Standard Tesla test. Are there any more questions? I have a question like this. Can I prove that our device works with this kind of energy, right? For example, there might be a question like this: why is this video being made? It's so that people realize there's a little more out there than what we learned in physics, chemistry, or biology class. There you have the NPIC coil. Now, this isn't the NPIC modulator. This is a device called an Okameg or mission device. The NPIC coil is connected, and that's a plate of water. We placed a plate of water on the coil. There you go, we turn on the device. We take an Avermenko flag, and I'll show you what the problem is. The fundamental problem is that this phenomenon is often confused with induction. How? Well, for example, our device uses a dual solution. We utilize both, so both the phenomenon of induction and the new energetics. You can see, the LED lit up above it. That's the phenomenon of induction. Electromagnetic induction. But here at the edge, it doesn't light up anymore, as you can see. Of course, it also lights up in the water. But this is still just induction, as we have discussed so far. However, what is not simply induction, and is instead the new energetics that we are talking about, is this phenomenon right here. Can you see it? I sincerely hope so. Here, at the very edge, the LED no longer lights up as a result of induction. This new energetics also accumulates and builds up in objects over time. As a phenomenon that can be referred to as the shape effect, it demonstrates unique properties that are distinct from traditional induction. Torsion fields are in the background, so now I'll explain at the very end of the video how our physical reality is built up according to these theories. Time energy is the foundation of our reality. These are waves, wave fields. Time, as mass, meets time energy. The two pass through each other and create quantum fluctuations and torsion fields and torsion spaces. The torsion fields and torsion spaces then create what is called the quantum physical phenomenon. And then through these quantum physical phenomena, everyday phenomena are realized: atoms, protons, neutrons, and so on. Now, this is energetics, energy. This energy can then be broken back down into time energy. This is the basic principle. We see, this is how it works. The oscillation of the ether, or torsion waves. Look, you can see it here on the neon tube. This is still the same thing. You can see it on the tube. It works. Here in my hand, you can see 2 neon tubes. And hopefully, the camera can capture the oscillation of the ether to some extent. This is still the same thing with the coil as I showed you earlier. Both neon tubes are not small. If we were talking about electrical energy, I would say that this is real electrical energy, and what we use nowadays, and every device, is a secondary form. It's an inferior form. This is an extremely inefficient and harmful form of electricity for the human body. It's a damaging form of electricity. As we can see, this energy transmits perfectly wirelessly, and it's safe. And our devices also use this kind of energy. So, these two not-so-weak neon tubes are lighting up here in my hand. You can find the wave genetic matrices and devices in the web shop. And I have to say, the oscillation of this is beautiful. Very beautiful. These are regular, traditional neon tubes. There's no modification on them at all. Except for the energy I'm using right now. I could watch this for hours, honestly. So, researchers and physicists, better brace yourselves, in my opinion. From what I see, you only know how to do two things: cover everything up and sneak around. You're really good at that. Other than that, nothing. So, this was a demonstration video. This is Nikola Tesla's radiant energy, which is the same as torsion fields and the same as chi or prana. It's the same kind of energy. And our devices have been using this energy for 4 years now. By the way, these neon tubes are a bit longer than 1 meter. And each one would need a voltage of 20,000 volts, so 20 kilovolts, to operate. I'm just mentioning this as an interesting fact for those who might not know how neon tubes work. Well, that's it for today's episode. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you found what I just shared interesting or useful. These are the basic effects. What you're seeing now, these are just the basic effects. These need to be further developed. This definitely requires many years of research and development. It doesn't happen overnight. That's it for this part, and I'm not apologizing for anything. Let the official scientific community apologize, the same science that has been covering things up for at least 150 years. Bye.